Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Red Raptor Writes. Many returning viewers know that I'm a big Star Wars fan. I love the movies, I love the video games, and I love the shows. Well, the stuff that's actually good. There's a buttload of Star Wars content, and even more opinions on said content, with everyone and their mothers floating their opinions on the latest and most popular show, The Mandalorian. I figured I might as well throw in my voice in the never-ending abyss of opinions. With Season 2 just finishing, now is as good a time as ever to talk about it. Hopefully this is short and painless, unlike The Rise of Skywalker. I don't want to drag this on, since there are a million other reviewers and reactions for you to watch, but I'll try to add something new to the discussion. Oh, also, you've probably noticed by now, I'm not adding all the correlating footage or memes or fancy editing. This is because I just want to get this review out as quickly as possible. Okay, without further introductions, let's dig this up. Considering the fan reaction to Season 1 of The Mandalorian, you would think that it was the second coming of Christ. I thought it was pretty good, okay-ish. But following the flop that was the sequel trilogy, even something pretty good felt amazing. All Jon Favreau had to do was not make trash. That was the bar. So, spoiler alert, it wasn't trash and the fans went on to love it. Now, there is a lot to like, but let's not get blinded by our Star Wars love here. There were some real problems that held back Season 1. I'll start with the positives though. After 2 seasons, there are some things we may be taking for granted. But going in, everyone just thought this would be a spin-off about bounty hunting in the Outer Rim. However, what we got was a fun return of the Western in Star Wars. Pretty much every cliche from the genre is represented here. The show's opening began with a mysterious figure walking into a cantina. He sits at the bar when a troublemaker tries to provoke him, and then the troublemaker gets completely wasted. Heck, an entire episode was devoted to copying the Magnificent Seven, or Seven Samurai, take your pick. Solo also took inspiration from old westerns, but hey, it's Solo. Did you even remember that waste of human resources existed before I mentioned it? Alright, moving on. Rather than just an episodic collection of bounty hunting trips for some random Mandalorian like we all expected, The Mandalorian was a heartwarming adventure about Mando trying to rescue a Force-sensitive child and to bring him to the Jedi for training. It's a novel idea that was obviously popular considering how much Grogu merch sold. Apparently, the child trended more than any presidential candidate running in the US at the time. How's that for subverting expectations? Nobody saw the child storyline coming, and it was a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. I also appreciate the small scale of the story. Din Djarin wasn't collapsing a galactic empire, fighting in epic space battles, or having these lightsaber duels. Nah, it was just one man traversing the galaxy with his Baby Yoda plushie. Yes, he occasionally ran into larger factions during his trip, but the story stayed focused on his personal journey. The smaller scale felt like a nice change of pace for Star Wars, especially when considering the J.J. Abrams solution of just making everything bigger and louder, hoping the audience has too much sensory overload to realize all the glaring plot holes. The action too was very well done. Some parts felt really brutal. While I wouldn't mind a few more blood and guts spilling, considering this is on Disney Plus, it's a good compromise. Yeah, we know that the Mandalorian isn't going to die in the middle of his own show, but we still got some intense action. Mando sitting there, knife out, ready to accept death from the Mudhorn. That was great. Wow, I'm still complimenting Season 1. Okay, last one then. This smaller scale, straight to Disney Plus show somehow manages to achieve the best special effects in all of Star Wars. This might be the first time where everything looks perfect. I honestly cannot think of a single time when I thought something was fake. Well, okay, most of it is fake, but everything looks so realistic. I know video game technology was integrated into the special effects using the Unreal Engine to create virtual backgrounds. These backgrounds were displayed on set using giant LED screens, so the actors weren't just seeing blue or green screens, but the actual environments that surrounded their characters. At least that's the Industrial Light and Magic 101 version of it. Whatever new technologies the creators use on the show definitely should make a return for future Star Wars films. Okay, now for the negatives. What's probably the worst thing about The Mandalorian is the sheer amount of filler us audiences had to endure. Half of the episodes felt like filler, like no story progression was actually being made. Think about that. For half of the time, the story wasn't moving forward. For any movie, this would be disastrous. At least with this series, those throwaway episodes are usually fun mini-adventures, so there's entertainment value there. A lot of shows have these kinds of episodes, side quests that don't add much. The thing is though, most shows don't have only 8 episodes per season. If there's a bunch of filler in only a short season, then that's precious time wasted. My philosophy when it comes to movies, and now I guess shows, is that you can't wait for a second movie or second season to carry the first. Nothing is guaranteed, so you have to make the most of the present. Knock it out of the park as best you can whenever you can. This isn't to say that filler is always bad. Sometimes a show needs to slow down or have a one-off fun episode, but when it takes up half of your season, then it's a problem. Season 7 of The Clone Wars fell into this trap too, maybe even to a worse extent, as only the final third of it was actually worthwhile, with the first third being set up for a new show, and the second third being just bad. I think there's an easy fix for Season 1. Instead of having a bunch of filler quests in the middle of the season, have the gunslinger and the prisoner in the beginning, except Mando should be more violent and ruthless here. Only after we see Mando kicking serious butt for a few episodes should the child be introduced. Yes, that would mean the show takes a while to really get going, but it would make for a more interesting protagonist, highlighting the killer bounty hunter / mercenary that he was, only for us to see him grow as a more caring person while he journeys with Grogu. Plus, we would feel much more weight to the choice of killing the child for the reward or rescuing him. If we see a character continually doing bad things, then there's a higher likelihood of them making the wrong choice, thus increasing the tension. Oh, also, everyone knows about the Jedi and the Force. Maybe not everyone believes, maybe our characters think of them as myths, but 5 years after Luke defeated Vader and the Emperor, you'd expect people to know about it. One of our leads, Cara Dune, fought for the rebellion. She should know about this. Din Djarin belongs to a hardcore Mandalorian cult. You would think he's heard of the Jedi who fought them a few thousand years ago. And just like that, I think I made a much better Season 1. Okay, on to Season 2. In my humble opinion, Season 2 of The Mandalorian is a huge step up from the first. I wouldn't call it Empire Strikes Back or KOTOR levels of amazing, but definitely some of the best Star Wars we've gotten in years. Just so I don't have to repeat all those positives again, Season 2 has all the good things about Season 1, but fixes the major issue that held the show back. Half of the show being filler, gone. Instead, we have one unnecessary episode that is certainly the weakest in the season, but not bad. This is episode 2, which we'll get back to later. Aside from that, every installment actually has Mando making progress on his quest to get Grogu to the Jedi. Yes, he's still on this task because Season 1 couldn't be bothered with progressing the story, so here it is taking up Season 2 as well. There is still an episodic nature to this season. Most episodes consist of their own mini-adventure, but throughout them, we still get the sense that progress is being made, that it's all leading up to an epic climax. Indeed, it was epic. The last episode saw the real return of Luke Skywalker. Not some disgusting milk drinker who attempts to kill his nephew in his sleep. No, a skilled, noble Jedi Knight. Jeez, the Luke we see in The Mandalorian, like everything else, looked so lifelike, it left me wondering how they actually pulled it off. I mean, we saw what CGI Tarkin and young Leia looked like in Rogue One. Ugh. I can't wait to see behind the scenes videos on how Disney actually got it done. It's like they got a time machine and kidnapped 1983 Mark Hamill to reprise his role. Other popular characters make an appearance in this season as well. Episode 3 introduces Bo-Katan, played by Katie Sackhoff, who's reprising her role, and Episode 5 brings back Ahsoka, who's portrayed here by Rosario Dawson. Bo's actress is just as good in live action as she is in animation. No complaints there. And Dawson is excellent as an older Ahsoka, still having the same attitudes and mannerisms, but more subdued for the sake of her age and the fact that this is live action. Yeah, sorry if you were expecting her to bounce around and leap back and forth like in the Clone Wars. That's not happening. Now, who can forget the return of Boba Fett in his full glory? The Mandalorian completely redeems his character after his underwhelming defeat in Return of the Jedi. It's great to finally see him do something on screen for once. This seems like a lot of fan service, and it is, but what makes it work is that these returning characters don't exist just to make the hardcore fans wet their pants. Each of them have functioning roles in the story and serve them well. You don't need to have seen the previous shows to enjoy the characters in this story. I'll be honest, I haven't seen Rebels, but that hasn't stopped my enjoyment of The Mandalorian in any way. Returning fan favorites are introduced as if they're new characters, not like we should already know who they are. Longtime fans only get nostalgic fangirling from these appearances, nothing else, so it's easily accessible to all audiences. I gotta appreciate too Din Djarin's small character arc. He starts the season criticizing Bo-Katan for taking off her helmet, since he's an extreme idealist who clings to his creed. But as the situation demands it, he chooses to be more of a pragmatist, giving up some of his beliefs in order to save Grogu, showing his love for him. We know how hard Mando sticks to his creed, so seeing him give that up for the child shows just how important he is to him. Maybe this is the start of Din drifting away from the Mandalorian way of life. Maybe by the end of the series, we'll see him settle down with that widow from season 1, and watch a sunrise on a grateful universe. On the other side of things, there do seem to be hints of studio meddling. As Disney announces a bunch of new shows, some of which no one asked for, it feels like The Mandalorian is being used as a platform to launch them. While I appreciate Ahsoka's return and Rosario Dawson's performance, her episode looks like set up for her new show as she hunts for Grand Admiral Thrawn. The studio interference doesn't seem as bad as, say, Daredevil, but it is distracting. Let's talk about some of the controversies surrounding this season, because the internet gets offended by everything these days. Going back to the second episode of the season, there's that joke about Grogu eating the frog lady's eggs. And I gotta be honest, I wasn't a fan either. Now, I didn't hate it, I didn't find it super offensive, but it just wasn't funny. The poor woman is trying to transport her eggs and reunite with her husband. But no, Grogu has to eat everything within a 10-meter radius. So if something's an Allosaurus away, it's safe. Also, there's apparently a boob armor controversy, as if female Mandalorians can't be comfortable in their armor. No, I guess they have to squish their lady pecs into male armor. I'm sorry that me, a random video essayist on YouTube, needs to point out that men and women have biological differences that need to be accommodated for. Man, this is such a non-controversy. 2 seasons have passed for The Mandalorian, and I've gotta say, they didn't disappoint. I know there's been plenty of praise for both seasons, but I think most of it is well deserved. Maybe some audiences enjoyed it just because they were getting over sequel hate, but most of it holds up. The Mandalorian has great leads, an engaging overarching story, lots of fun action, interesting adventures, and some of the best special effects I've ever seen. Even though I'm a lifelong Star Wars fan, I can still be honest with myself and my viewers to say that it's far from a perfect show. There are some problems that weigh it down, keeping it from being a top tier series. Flaws and all, it's still a mostly enjoyable series. Although I only found season 1 to be pretty good, season 2 takes the ball and runs with it, giving us all the greatness we were promised last year. So those are my thoughts on The Mandalorian. Now, I want to know what you think. Were you hyped for Luke? Offended by the egg eating? Let me know in the comments how you felt. And remember, if you enjoyed this video, to please leave a like, subscribe, check out my social media, and have a very Merry Christmas. See you next time.